4-foot roll-on deodorant. Yeah, I was good with this.
It's so funny. I love this like absurdist deadpan comedy where they're just like genuinely happy to have this product.
Great parody. Big hit. Loved it.
It's SNL, a look back at Saturday Night Live with your hosts, Matt, Dee, and Keith. Brought to you by Lion's Den Audio Theater. Like and subscribe to Lion's Den Audio Theater for more Lion's Den goodness. And here are your hosts, Keith, Dee, and Matt.
Episode 10 of NBC's Saturday Night, later known as Saturday Night Live, starring Buck Henry, originally aired on January 17th, 1976. Welcome to SNL. It's episode 10 for us as well. I'm Keith, and with me again are Dee and Matt. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
We have some viewer/listener mail. And
Get
also,
out of here.
It's true. Yeah. So we do have a question. One was actually posted in the comments of one of our YouTube videos, but also I've heard this from different friends of ours. A couple people over at Fave Can Pod asked the same question. And basically, these are people that did the math and said, how long do you guys plan to do this? There are 900 episodes, and if you do, one a week, it's going to take like 20 years. I have an answer, but I don't think we've actually formally discussed this. So what are you guys thinking?
I did do the math, and I dropped it to you one time.
Yeah,
I didn't do any math, but the answer is to the grave, my friend. To the grave.
Yeah, so I mean, the official answer I have been giving people is definitely season 1, almost definitely the first 5, but the goal is to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we have children that can assume the reins if necessary.
It's sometimes there might be a situation where we can sit down and we can do. It gets bad. Let's be honest. Sometimes maybe we do two SNLs and one SNL. You never know how it's going to shake out.
Absolutely, and I mean we're still doing a lot of like, how are they doing? How are they evolving? How are they building? I mean, when we get to like 1987 or even 1984, it's not going to be so much of like, how was the show progressing the way it is? It's just going to be straight up, this was good, this sucked.
Agree. A lot of history to cover. But you know what? Every era is going to have their own history too. So I wouldn't be, to be honest, I guess now that I think of it, I wouldn't be surprised if it never changes. But I mean, my short answer is to the grave.
Till awesome. I perish.
And I mean, Dee, you're, when we're done, you'll be pretty much my age, I think. So, I mean, it's, but we'll see how it goes.
You know what I saw on YouTube? I saw some guy on YouTube, and the video was called, I watched one episode of SNL from every season, and here's what I thought. I was like, you rookie numbers.
Yeah, there's also someone who did one SNL episode a day, which I thought was a great idea. I don't think we could ever do it that way. But yeah, I think he's got a blog up, and if I can find the link, I'll definitely share it.
Oh, that's a good way to do one a day, having a blog. That's really smart.
For sure. The edit alone would drive me bonkers. Okay, so Buck Henry. Do you guys want to know a little bit about Buck Henry?
Yeah, you bet, of course, because I don't know anything.
So Buck Henry. Buck Henry was the co-creator of Get Smart with Mel Brooks, the famous comedy spy show from the 60s. He also co-wrote the screenplay to The Graduate, where he got an Oscar, and he wrote the screenplay for Catch-22, along with a lot of other things. He co-directed Warren Beatty's Heaven Can Wait, which was a remake of an old Don Amici movie. To people my age, he's probably best recognized for some of his acting. He played Liz Lemon's dad on 30 Rock. Hot in Cleveland, he had a 4 or 5 episode run, I think. And he was also on Will and Grace. I don't remember. I'd never watched, so I don't know exactly who he was.
Probably another dad.
What's that? Yeah, probably so, yeah. He was an improv comic, and he had the greatest TV debut I think I've ever heard of, as we were all appreciating Andy Kaufman. This is pretty fun. He appeared on a bunch of talk shows in the 60s, I believe, as a character named G. Clifford Prout. Now, I say character, but he presented himself as an actual person, an actual activist, who was the president for the Society for Indecency to Naked Animals. And he was on television shows saying that basically animals walking around on the streets naked should actually be wearing clothes. And his slogan was, "A nude horse is a rude horse." And he made the rounds, and this was done completely deadpan and completely seriously, and he was getting letters of support and stuff like that. To me, it was just beautiful performance art.
That's amazing.
I know, it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the best things I've ever heard, to be honest.
The only thing I know about this guy is that he kind of seems like an old fogey. Even here, is it just me that gets Waylon Smithers vibes from this guy? Did anybody else feel like this guy was a Waylon Smithers?
Yeah, aesthetically, like, he's like any man. He could blend into any office crowd, you know what I mean?
You know, it could almost be a serial killer vibe. And let that, let it be known that my initial comments may not reflect how I feel about him going forward or the entire episode by any means.
For sure, yeah. Cool, so let's jump into the monologue. Buck Henry addresses why he was asked to host. He's not an actor, he's not a comic, he's done a couple of movies, I think he says. He admits that he probably wasn't the first choice. As he is giving a very nice, humble speech, the Chiron confirms that there were many other people asked before him, most of whom are, B to Z list celebrities. And then the Chiron sort of keeps coming up and contradicting and or sort of taking what Henry is saying to the next level. I laughed through this whole thing. I watched this episode 3 times recently, and I laughed through the whole thing all 3 times.
I laughed, especially when all the names are rolling up, and it's like every single Newman that you could think of. That really got me.
Yeah, Randy, and not even Paul. Like, Paul would have been too big of a star.
I guess I thought it was okay. I didn't get a good laugh out of it because I don't really know who this guy is. I don't know. I thought it was a little one note, but it didn't overstay its welcome. It's kind of a cliche monologue.
It's funny you say that because I wondered if it was cliche then or if this was breaking new ground with this Chiron fun stuff. You know what I mean?
I was thinking that too.
That's fair.
Because it is everywhere now, but I was kind of wondering, like, is this one of the first times it was done? Definitely the first time it was done on Saturday Night Live.
So they're already making the audience Chiron jokes, right? So like I don't think they thought it was super fresh.
I just think that made it funnier.
It's interesting, like, the way we're looking at it from, 50 years later. So many tropes originated there, and it's really hard. I know, like, I dive into the research, and it's really hard to confirm was that the first place this was done in certain times. So
I just try to think of it like, is that the first time I have seen it? Like, if I think through my memory, like, chronologically of things I have watched, is that the first time I have seen it? And so far, SNL for me, a lot of times, like, the answer would have been yes.
Samurai Delicatessen. And this one was written by Alan Zweibel, taking over the franchise from Tom Schiller, who wrote the initial one. But it's based on a John Belushi character. And this one was at the suggestion of Buck Henry. He liked the character and wanted to do a scene with it. And there'll be more on that shortly. Not much to say about the sketch. Henry goes to a deli that's being run by Belushi's Samurai Futaba. More of the same gibberish, more of the same hitting things with swords. When the character pops out, the audience gives it a huge ovation, which was kind of disappointing. Again, everything I said about the first Samurai Futaba, I say again, I don't like this sketch. On top of the overt racism, I just don't find this funny. I never did.
I still didn't really get it, but out of context, like if I were to just look at the parts where he is doing the physical comedy of just the ridiculousness of trying to chop like a sandwich or a salami with an entire sword, that's what got me. But it's the racism undertones. They're not even undertones. They're just there, like, in the foreground. But anyway, it makes it hard for me to enjoy the physical comedy. Like, you still could have done that without making it about, I don't know, race. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I think because I laughed sometimes, and I was pretty hard on the first one, just like y'all. But this time, when he's using that sword and when he's whipping out the smaller knife to commit seppuku with the tomato, I'm laughing. And I know I was pretty hardline about that last one. But I couldn't deny that the physical humor was there. And I liked our host as this almost strangely understanding passive bystander just watching it. He was really killing it for me in this too. So yeah, it's terrible, but there was kind of stuff I liked about it. From a comedic standpoint, absolutely.
I'm starting to think that maybe it is like this unknowing white man who is really, really involved in this culture for some reason, and he thinks he belongs in it for some reason, and this is how it comes out. And I'm trying to view it from that perspective because I don't want to just assume that they wrote it in a racist way intentionally.
Well, and that was the point someone made online, because the first sketch, I don't know if you remember offhand, but his last line is in perfectly clear English where he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it, or something like that. So somebody did say it's more one of these like Japanese culture fanboys type thing. But I don't know. Other than him slicing the tomato in midair, which I thought was pretty freaking cool, I don't particularly enjoy this one too much.
I agree.
This is often suggested or stated as being the first recurring character to appear on SNL, because they had never considered doing recurring characters. Now, this seems to be the written history, but I mean, we've seen Sherry, we've seen Emily Litella, we've seen the Bees, and then like things like Garrett doing the hard of hearing stuff. I don't know why this gets the credit as being the first recurring character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It just shouldn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
It just shouldn't.
Let's go into presidential foreplay. Jane Curtin, everybody's favorite cable access TV show host, I think, on these shows, interviews Linda Louise, who was a woman who was said to have had an affair with President. Curtin understands it to be Kennedy, but it's actually Nixon. And I only knew it was Nixon from a few references and then confirming it online. I thought this was well portrayed in a way, but terribly poorly written. I didn't like this so much. I thought Gilda was good in her performance, but I didn't like it. How about you guys?
I didn't know which president they were referring to, and I had absolutely no idea who Gilda was supposed to be, but that just might be my age. Gilda looked so good in this performance. Physically, I thought she was funny, but because I didn't understand who anyone was supposed to be, it kind of went over my head.
I agree. I mean, I knew who most of these people were supposed to be, but it's still kind of sailed over. It was too topical, just far too topical, even if I think you know the players. But there was no denying that Gilda Radner, what an actress. Oh, good gosh.
Oh, my God, she looks so good.
And I don't think she was playing any one. I think she was kind of a composite of a whole bunch of different women that came forward saying they'd slept with Kennedy.
That's what I thought, yeah. That's what I was gathering. I didn't take her as a literal person. But, yeah, she killed it, and it was a great showcase for her. I didn't really think the jokes were there.
The overall humor to me was that this sort of sex pot lady had been hooking up with Nixon for years, which is kind of like Nixon is like the anti-Kennedy for that, you know, drink your Ovaltine and go to sleep by 7 o'clock at night type thing. So it was kind of funny to me in that sense, but I don't think they pulled that off, I don't think. So then we have a Chiron saying this person is Sergeant Shriver's brother-in-law on his sister's side. And Sergeant Shriver was married to one of the Kennedy sisters. And I think he had been somebody's nomination for vice president at one point. So next up, here we go, politics. And this sketch takes about half the episode, it felt like. It's called Operation Stumblebum, or The Oval Office. Chevy Chase plays Gerald Ford. Buck Henry plays his press secretary, Ron Nessen. And Nessen just seems to be like a sort of patient buffer between Ford and reality. And he's come up with a plan to make Ford not look like an idiot. So at a press conference, when Ford drops things and makes stupid mistakes, Nessen and some Secret Service people do it too to make it look more normal. I just found this too long. There were some jokes in there, but the length sort of watered that down, and it was just more dumb, clumsy Ford stuff.
Yeah, it was so long. The come in and sit down Ron, every time he would say that would get a little chuckle out of me, but that's about as far as it went.
I really like Chevy doing his clumsy idiot Ford. He's just magnetic. I want to look at him. I think he's funny. I love him doing his shtick. He's a great physical comedic presence, and he's just a pleasure to watch. He's the star of the show. So it's fun to watch him, and I really liked the bit in The Office. But then it just kept going. I definitely liked it more than you guys. I know it was too long, but I kept laughing.
The voice of the reporter was Lorne Michaels. Dee, did you notice the logos on the microphones?
No, I didn't. What did they say?
It was those bad NBC logos from the previous episode.
Oh my God, yeah. No.
Yeah. Next up, Bill Withers. Bill Withers was a factory worker turned musical superstar. And at a factory, this was the coolest thing, he made toilet seats for airplanes.
That is really cool. That's such a specific job. I love that so much.
He hit it big in his mid-30s. On this episode, he sings Ain't No Sunshine, which had been number 3 on the Billboard charts, but it was about 4 years ago, like 4 years prior. Some of his other hits, of course, before this and after were Lean on Me, Just the Two of Us, and Lovely Day. Bill Withers, great at what he does. I'm not really into this sort of stuff at all. I actually Lean on Me. I could go the rest of my life without ever hearing that again. But I really like his voice. He's a great songwriter. Yeah, this just wasn't for me, but I can't say it was bad.
Baby, I'd literally vibe to this any day. Like, he's literally just chilling as he's singing this. It looks so effortless. He was looking so good. This performance, I loved it. I popped off.
Hey, no surprises here that I am not the demo for this. Talented man, talented performer, not the target market am I for this material. Not going to the concerts or buying the record.
For me, it was absolutely like a moment of I really appreciate what this guy does, but it's not my bag.
How I feel about Harvey's hamburgers.
Next up is the Evelyn Woodski School of Speed Reading. Lorraine Newman, as Evelyn Woodski, advertises her speed reading course where she struggles to read the words. This was not funny. This was quick. It was dumb.
Womp womp. Look, just a quick joke. Yeah. I feel like they needed 30 seconds of something.
Subtle ableism.
So we have another Chiron. This person has met Martin Milner. We've seen this one before.
Are you lying? I had no idea they reused this one. I didn't even notice.
I was watching, I was like, okay, they reused this one. It's not funny yet, but if it keeps popping up, I might wind up laughing at it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Weekend update. Chevy Chase, he loves us very deeply. Again, broad stroke of this one. There's a great a joke I really laughed at, that it's white mice that cause cancer. Francisco Franco is still dead. Tony, Orlando, and Freddie Prinze are Siamese twins, which I thought was funny. They were actually really good buddies. Another bit with Angola where they call Garrett Morris as the night janitor in Angola, and everyone's asleep, so there's no fighting. Bit about the killer dope, where squirrels play with their nuts. Was there anything that jumped out in this first bit for you guys? Yeah,
you know what? I actually liked a lot of it. I think Chevy is really on here. He's really comfortable at this point. A Szechuan flavored burial. That's some good stuff. The Angola stuff is really good. I really think that they are mastering Weekend Update now. I've already said it. I'm fucking all up for Chevy Chase this episode. I think he nailed this segment. I think he's nailing these deliveries. I think he's a bright and shining star.
This was my favorite phone line opening in Weekend Update. I love it when you keep your eyes open.
It's funny. I've paid so little attention to the phone lines that I'm kind of embarrassed that, this was one of the first few I noticed.
I don't give them enough credit. I don't think I've mentioned them before. I might have once. But they're my favorite part, I think.
They're pretty good. They're very subtle. And they really just kind of slip them in there. And this one is really a home run, which I think is why you notice it. Because usually they're just like, that's good. It's subtle, but it's good. It keeps you laughing, and I think that's important. Perfection, they say, is a lot of little things done well, and that's just a little thing done well.
Now, the address Chevy gives to send the killer dope to for him to test, it's different than the other address, the first address was. And I did look it up on Google Map, and it doesn't seem to exist. At least in 2020, it doesn't exist. It's so much a sign of the times. Did you notice the bit where they talked about the Super Bowl having really low ratings?
Yes.
Hard to imagine these days, eh?
I can't imagine it. Even the grocery stores depend on the Super Bowl.
I mean, but like network TV is also dying. So aren't ratings actually? But you know what? I say that, but live sports are really the only thing keeping network television alive.
Anything live,
yeah,
or like drag race, that kind of thing.
That's why wrestling is getting so much money, because wrestling produces so much live content. So they'll throw a bunch of money at it. If you have live content, you're the shit right now.
What about the nut joke that the audience literally lost their minds over?
Oh, the squirrel playing with his nuts when he.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a common thing now. Like, it's so played out, but it's funny that the audience at that time, like, it was so fresh to them, they literally lost their minds.
Yeah. So the first half of Weekend Update ends, and we go to a commercial. It's for Germisol roll-on house deodorant. Radner owns a house. It's kind of stinky from what she cooked the night before. In comes Newman and Curtin, who bring in a giant roll of roll-on home deodorizer. I love this kind of comedy. Lorraine Newman was so serious with this 4-foot roll-on deodorant. Yeah, I was good with this.
It's so funny. I love this like absurdist deadpan comedy where they're just like genuinely happy to have this product. Oh my god, and they're just going around and they're rolling it on things together. So I love it. I love it so much.
Great parody. Big hit. Loved it.
Like, even if the roll-on had been like, a foot long, it wouldn't have been funny. It's just that it's so fucking large,
Oh, could you imagine?
Then we come back to Weekend Update, where Buck Henry, appearing as Henry Zuckerman, which is his actual birth name, talks about the Roman Catholic Church and different doctrines around, I think it was masturbation, actually. Chevy sits behind him and makes faces and mocks him. I didn't like this. I've never liked this. I think this is the third time we've had to watch it. I think this is just dumb.
This is the first time that I thought Chevy making fun of somebody during this little instance was funny, because what the guy is saying like is so ridiculous and so obviously like such a reach that I would probably do the same thing if I was sitting there and listening to somebody like spew this on air. And then they go on to say, I think at some point they say something about this like not being the view of Saturday Night Live, maybe. That really got me. Yeah, I just thought it was funny. It makes sense this time. It didn't really make sense before. The person had to be saying something that is so stupid for it to make sense.
I see where you're coming from. I don't like the joke, really. Chevy does it really well. And that is almost, it's almost annoying that he does it so well. I thought it was a bit of a retread, but I mean, come on. It's pretty obvious that I'm boned up for Chevy. I'm just loving everything he's doing. Even when I don't like the jokes, just fucking give me more, man.
So this little segment is unique in the fact that this is the first time a SNL host appeared on Weekend Update.
That's cool. I didn't notice that or know it, but I dig it. Why not?
And then our top story. Alan Zweibel is the chairman for the Committee of Dead People. He basically plays a corpse and obviously doesn't repeat what Chevy is saying, and then he falls over. No Garrett.
Give Garrett his thing back. I don't like this. Stop trying to give me this other guy.
Big miss. No laughs. Don't. And you were getting a laugh out of me every time. Doing the same thing every time. I was laugh for a laugh for a laugh. Nothing.
I don't know, like, where my brain was, but I wrote unlaughed for this one.
So bad you unlaughed. Good Lord.
And we come to Citizen Kane 2, and this one is Michael O'Donoghue wrote this one. It's the first one ever in black and white. And it's just picking up where Citizen Kane left off. Lorraine Newman, as a nurse, tells Buck Henry that Citizen Kane's last words were not Rosebud, but it was Henri. And they investigate this Henri, and the investigation takes them to Chevy Chase, who flashes back. So Citizen Kane, or Charles Foster Kane, as played by Dan Aykroyd, actually creates the news by shooting people. And Tom Schiller is Henri, and he brings in newspapers and headlines of the shooting. Garrett Morris is a food delivery guy, and we sort of jump back and forth in time with Chevy Chase telling the story. And he's got a fake mustache on that's absolutely hilarious. Chevy Chase, Newman, and Henry actually crack at the end of the sketch. And I have some thoughts on that I'll share in a minute. This was a long and intricate build for a very stupid, goofy punchline. I really liked it, and I thought the black and white made it. It shows how timeless black and white is, because there was no 70s vibe whatsoever. This looked like it could have been shot yesterday. I'm really interested in what you guys have to say about this one.
I loved it. As soon as I saw the black and white, I immediately called that it was Citizen Kane. So that was fun for me. My favorite line was "Not even pets, safe in a weird murder spree" by Dan Aykroyd. I literally howled. This had me like crying laughing.
I really, what an ambitious sketch indeed. And I think they mostly pulled it off. It was well paced. It never dragged too much. They kept it on its toes. Not everything landed, and maybe, was it a smidge too long? Yeah, maybe. But I was never bored. I was interested in the whole thing. I thought it was silly enough. The gags were silly enough. But most importantly of all for sure, everybody in the sketch brought it. They really, with their performances, in my opinion, crucial with a lesser cast, with lesser people. This doesn't go anywhere. This needed these talents to make it work.
Now, Chase, Newman, and Henry break at the end. Why do you guys think they laughed? Because I have a theory, but kind of wonder if you guys do.
I don't have one.
I think they were laughing at the audience reaction, which was basically 4 people laughing really hard and nobody else laughing.
I can't wait to watch it again now with that.
Yeah, it's a great sketch. And this is, as far as I understand it, this is quintessential Michael O'Donoghue business. And I think we get to see Michael O'Donoghue in a bit with his other type of humor. So, yeah. And so now we jump to the Muppets in the Land of Gorch. I have been very hard on the Muppets since the beginning. And I said, okay, here comes the Muppets. I'm going to watch this with an open mind, fresh start, clean slate. This one's about Muppets and sex toys. I was done. This was garbage. Sorry.
I wish this never happened. Like, what was this? It wasn't funny. I was literally disgusted, and I feel like I'm not easily disgusted. I was very disgusted by this.
Yeah, it's gross. They're killing us. They're killing us with these. And, like, I know the writers don't want to write them. So, I feel like it's just contractual obligation, time-filling stuff for everybody. Saturday Night Live, at this point in season 1, I think it's pretty cool television. Like, people are with it, or they're getting with it at this point. I know that the Elliot Gould episode will go on to win an Emmy. But I'm sure that hasn't happened yet because we're only a few weeks away from that. The show's got eyes on it. Everybody's suffering through this.
So then we have it's a re-airing of the Triple Track Razor. This was from episode 1. I have nothing else to say about it, but in the first episode I said it was Al Franken playing the caveman, and the IMDb says it's Al Franken, but I was watching it pretty close, and I don't think that is Al Franken. I could be wrong.
I 100% did not notice.
And so now we go to Toni Basil, and we've already seen Toni Basil on Saturday Night Live as part of the Lockers. She's also got a choreography credit for doing something on the Lily Tomlin episode. She sings the old Glenn Miller song Wham!
I loved it. It was giving me gay energy. Her dancing was entertaining. Her shoes was dope. She's hot. She just has good energy. I absolutely loved it. She's so fun for me. Was she the one that was like the black and white clown?
Yeah, that was her.
I love her. I wish it was her. I literally wish I was her.
I would surprise no one that knows me super well that I like Toni Basil just fine. The 80s one-hit wonder, to be an accomplished choreographer, obviously a great singer, and I thought this was an awesome performance. I loved it. I certainly, sure as heck, preferred it by leaps and bounds more than the first musical performance of the evening. This one's for me. I
loved it. I've watched it maybe 25 times since then, this exact performance, over and over again. And I even consulted a choreographer who works with us sometimes on Lion's Den to ask, like, because I was blown away by the dancing. I don't know dancing at all. She said that for that level, it's not like knock you on your ass, but it's pretty good stuff. And to do it all in those shoes was pretty amazing, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot of dancing. I used back in the day, I used to watch Randy Jackson's America's Next Best Dance Crew, and I thought that was a really entertaining show for something to put on while I ate spaghetti or something. But that's about as much as I know about dance. But gosh, what the old saying, I sure know what I like. And I liked this.
Yeah, loved it. And I got really pissed off for a moment or two that the Toni Basil is only known by the average viewer as a one-hit wonder from the 80s. People with 1/10 of her talent that are, absolute superstars.
She's she's more, if she comes along a smidge later, then she's a bigger star because her whole thing is Paula Abdul's shtick. Paula Abdul's shtick is that she's just a short choreographer, but I mean, Paula Abdul can't really sing. Toni Basil can actually sing, but I mean, let's be honest, Paula Abdul's a fantastic dancer and choreographer. But because she came along looking as she did with the songs that she did in the music video era, Toni Basil just didn't come along in the music video era.
This supplants Gil Scott-Heron's Johannesburg as my favorite musical performance to date, barring Art Garfunkel. Auto mechanic bedtime story. Dan Aykroyd tells his daughter Debbie a bedtime story, which is basically his day at the garage, working at the garage. She keeps interrupting him with more common fairy tale things, and he tries to relate them to the story. I don't know much about cars, but from what I hear, Dan Aykroyd was super big on researching this sort of stuff for his sketches, and it sure sounded like he knew what he was talking about. As Radner goes to bed, she asks pretty intricate information about wheel alignments, which means all along she's been listening to what her dad says. I thought this was not particularly funny, but I found it extremely touching.
Yeah, it's a sweet one-note sketch. Gilda, again, really another showcase for her, to be honest. I'm really, you're going to ask me later, who's your favorite, who's the star of this episode? And I'm going to have a hard time with that, because, I think this is, again, another terrific showcase for her acting, even though the jokes aren't really there. It's a one-joke sketch.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am really enjoying Gilda throughout this episode. She was just cute. She was good. She was doing exactly what I wanted her to do in this sketch. And Dan Aykroyd, yeah, it did sound like he knew what he was talking about. Like, if he didn't, I would have no idea.
Dan Aykroyd, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan Aykroyd is a renowned strange person. So I would not be surprised at all to know that he, would, for a 5-minute sketch, would know how to disassemble and reassemble a Buick.
Yeah, he's apparently got one of these memories where he can read something and it stays there forever.
I wish it was him. He's so cute.
Yeah, and I don't know if Debbie, I can't remember offhand if Debbie comes back, but Gilda does sort of bring back Judy Miller, who is a little girl that sort of runs her own fake TV show. We'll see that later. But this sort of struck me as an early version of Judy.
I just want to bring up Mad TV for a second.
Sure.
I assume Mad TV was not out at this point.
No.
They will go on to create a character that I think is based off this later.
So then we go to a drug PSA. This is just a quick one. Chevy Chase rolls a joint, ties off his arm, and tries to inject himself with the joint. And they say that's why it's called dope. Quick filler. I didn't find it funny.
No, I didn't find it funny either. Chevy's a good roller, though. The way he zipped up that paper, man, I don't roll joints that well. That was smooth. He's done that before.
Yeah, I didn't think it was funny.
Now we go to a Gary Weiss film. I called it Irvington. Henry goes to Irvington, New York to find out who the people of Irvington think is the funniest in town. A man at a bar sends him to a dry cleaner. The dry cleaners send him to their driver named Woodeye. Woodeye says the police chief is the funniest. The chief says it's not him, and he sends them to see Woody Mondelli, who then sends them to Lefty, and Lefty says the funniest person is a lady named Marie. Marie admits that she is truly the funniest person in town. I loved this. This is folklore. This is great. I thought this was fantastic.
This is what Albert Brooks wishes he made this. I feel like this is what he was going for, and did not accomplish. I loved this. So funny.
I will disagree that it's what Albert Brooks was going for. First of all, you're absolutely right that Albert Brooks does not measure up to these films. This is just better. But Albert Brooks's films are about him. I find them very narcissistic, and I don't think that's what's going on here at all. So I really think it's a different kind of approach and vision. Albert Brooks is making movies for himself, I find. This is somebody who wants to make something interesting, and Albert Brooks wanted to look in a mirror with his movies. But anyway, I loved it.
This is what he wishes he made, and the fact that people actually enjoyed it.
Well, yeah,
in comparison to what he has given us on SNL.
Okay, yeah, and from a purely I want people to like it, well, of course.
And I did give 1 or 2 little bonus points for Buck Henry in the middle of winter to go stand around. He's the host. He didn't have to do that. Standing in the middle of winter in some New York town in the middle of nowhere.
It was great.
This was great. This was fantastic. Yeah. We then go to Howard Shore and his all-B band. John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. It's definitely an early version of the Blues Brothers, in some places even credited as the Blues Brothers. They're dressed like bees and they sing a song. Belushi, some musical chops there and some energy. Best part, Aykroyd on the harmonica is great. I'm not a big fan of the Blues Brothers. I'm sitting through this with an open mind. That might change. I sort of saw this as a good musical bit showing a different side of the cast. If they didn't have a sketch to air, they may as well do this. Huge props for Howard Shore in the background dressed as a beekeeper.
Bee Belushi. I love him at this point. I'm starting to to develop a crush on Belushi, which is surprising because I've talked so much shit about him, but honestly, I'm starting to develop a little crush on him here. I think his musical talent is underrated. Like, I feel like when I hear about him, I don't hear about his musical abilities. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean right now, but I think we will. I think it'll be more of a topic of conversation going forward.
Okay, well, he's my crush, so I don't know.
Okay, not unlike the Bill Withers performance earlier, I can recognize talent, but this is not for me. It's just not. I'm not the demo here. I don't like the blues. I take medicine to keep them away. I don't need no blues.
I love the Bees.
I like the Bees, but this isn't about the Bees. This is about Belushi and Aykroyd and some prototype blues brothers. I don't like it then, and I don't like it in its beta.
Well, I wish I had it right now.
Yes.
One thing that does bother me, it gets, I don't remember being so obnoxious with the Blues Brothers, but I don't like Belushi just falling around like that for the sake of falling. Like, there's no artistry there. I don't know how to put it, but he's just kind of like throwing himself on the floor with no rhythm. I don't know. I'm all out of
that. Makes it even funnier to me.
Okay.
No, it doesn't for me. I'm with you on that one, Keith.
Our next bit is Michael O'Donoghue. Buck Henry introduces impressionist or impersonator Michael O'Donoghue, who is doing his impression of television host Mike Douglas getting needles into his eyes. O'Donoghue screams and gyrates on the floor. This is more great Michael O'Donoghue stuff, but I mean, it's definitely like an acquired taste or maybe just a complete thing of tastes. I just like the random oddness to it.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. This might be the most I laughed at the entire episode. It was quick. It was to the point. Shit, I loved it.
It gave me quite a laugh. I only discovered this kind of joke maybe like 2 years ago when someone comes up on the stage to like do an impression, but it's so absurdist and ridiculous. It's still so funny to me. I love it. And I would consider this my first time seeing that.
Our next bit, it's the last sketch of the night. It's sort of a PSA for the American Constipation Society. Buck Henry is constipated and he won't go for a nightly walk with his wife. And the rest of the sketch is just a bunch of euphemisms about constipation, involving Curtin, Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, Garrett Morris. They all get a big kick out of the fact that Buck Henry is constipated, but Henry's kind of self-conscious about it. This makes the point to me. I was like, in reality, constipation can be a very deadly condition or caused by one. But yet it's always even in the commercials, they kind of make a joke out of it. This was fun wordplay, but it wasn't a great sketch.
This was fun for me. The commercials for constipation really do be like that. They're always making like some sort of subtle joke out of it. Gilda couldn't stop laughing near the end of this. I don't know if anybody noticed, but she started to lose it at the very end.
Yeah, I you know what? I'm kind of in the middle between y'all on this. I thought it was fun. Again, I was most focused on Gilda Radner because, as Dee said, it's hard not to be in a situation like that. But it wasn't the strongest sketch of the night by any means. A bit middle of the road at the end on purpose, I think.
And then we're at the ending of the episode at this point in time.
The end.
We are recording this during Pride Month. So at the end, when they said everyone here is gay, I literally popped off. You don't even know.
It's true, she did. Yeah, it's fun. I'm looking forward to our summaries, Keith.
Yeah, I think that was a reference to something. Like, I don't think that was just a random thing he threw out, but again, he very well may have. But yeah, the cast seemed to enjoy it. Like, there didn't seem to be much. It wasn't mean-spirited or anything. It was just something he threw out. And
it was just funny.
So let's go into our epilogue. Buck Henry will be back many, many, many times. This is the only time for Bill Withers. He retired from full-time music in 1985 due to a disdain of the music industry and record executives in particular.
Is that why Bill was withering?
That's right. No, this guy, he was like
disdain by the record-buying public for Bill Withers' albums.
He took a stand, and he was like 32 when he became famous, so like he just didn't give a shit. He was like, I got a ton of money, and I've written like 4 songs that are legendary. I'm done, man. Peace. He was done. And he still hung around a bit and did guest spots, and he still wrote music. And I mean, Lean on Me is everywhere. Just the Two of Us is everywhere.
I'd do that, man. I'd cash out. If I had a hit and I could cash out, I would cash out in a second. If I wrote some 3-minute fucking jingle and a bunch of people bought it for commercials, I would cash out so fast. Good for him for cashing out.
Good for him.
He wrote 3 of them in particular. Like, I mean, they're everywhere. You know, like I said, I could go the rest of my life without ever hearing Lean on Me again. So yeah, he still sporadically appeared on things. He got a ton of awards after he retired. He didn't like disappear into the ether. He really seemed to have had a wonderful life. And then he sadly he passed away just last year in March. I should specify it wasn't COVID related, but he was another one. And I actually thought of when you said, remember how you said, Matt, in a previous episode that like Lou Reed is your favorite rock star's favorite rock star?
Yep.
Well, Bill Withers is your favorite songwriter's favorite songwriter. And Toni Basil, I can't guarantee if she's makes another on-screen appearance. Some places say yes, some places say no. She's credited in future episodes for choreography, and certainly Mickey appears quite a bit. She's still dancing. She looks exactly the same, and she moves almost exactly the same.
I am happy to know that she's still doing stuff, and I'm definitely going to be looking into that.
Let's discuss the music if you guys want to do numbers or not. Bill Withers.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's fine. It's not for me. If somebody said rate this performance, I'd give it a 6 out of 10 because I can tell it's not just some average ass performance. You know, it's a hit. He's a good singer, but this is not for me, so I'm not giving it more than that.
I'm not going to rate it on a number scale, but boy, did I enjoy that. I really liked it.
I'm more akin to Matt, but again, I would never fault anyone for liking this. You know, it's not like, you know, Right Said Fred or something like that. This is good music. Toni Basil.
Toni baby, you're doing good. I love it. I love everything she has given us so far.
Yeah, this was great. This was the superior musical performance of the night for me by a country mile.
I agree.
This, like I said, favorite so far. And it's not quite music, but it is music. The Bees, the Howard Shore and his all bee band. I liked it, but you know, we're going to see a lot more from these guys.
I get the people like it, but it's not music to my ears. I could have done without this. I'd rather these guys bring the funny, but I guess it's fine that they want to explore their other interests. Some of us can only have one dream, but these guys want to be both comedically gifted and musically gifted. So I guess they get to have 2 dreams, which is fine. It's not for me, and I don't like these guys doing it on the show. But I mean, that's probably just me also.
Beavaloosh can have a Valentine's card from me.
All right, let's talk about our host tonight. I thought Buck Henry was great, but I think he was sort of hampered by bad material. I just didn't think this was great. He gave it his all, and I didn't get the vibe that much of the cast were really giving their all this time. I loved the monologue. I really liked Citizen Kane too. He integrated into the cast extremely well, and I could tell he was, without knowing the man, I could really get the sense he was having a great time. The big thing here is that I would like people to watch, people in charge of the show these days, to watch the show as a friendly reminder that the host doesn't have to be someone who's just out pushing a hit movie or who has a name that will bump the ratings, because this was solid, and Buck Henry will go on to set the bar for someone who's really just a good host without promotion.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. I mean, he kind of blended in. He didn't have a lot to work with. You're right, but you know, I mean, nothing was a home run either. This whole episode for me was like slightly above average. But it was on cruise control quite a bit, I thought, which is fine because it was on the good side of the cruise control. It won't always be, I'm sure.
Worst of the night.
The Muppets. I can't take these Muppets. It's a waste of time. It doesn't go anywhere. It's the jokes aren't fresh. Nothing is new.
The Muppets literally disgusted me this time. I'm not turning on the show to be physically repulsed. And I was repulsed, ma'am. I was repulsed.
Muppets was dreadful. Honorable mention to Samurai Futaba, which I still just don't like and probably never will. Muppets, I gave them a blank slate, and this is what I got. Couldn't do it. Disgusted me. Let's make things happy again. Let's go to best of the night. Matt?
I appreciate the ambition and what was required from the cast, especially the not ready for primetime players when it comes to Citizen Kane 2. I'm going to give Citizen Kane 2 my sketch of the night.
I was torn between Citizen Kane 2 and Henry's monologue, and what I actually went with, which was the thing that almost had me rolling on the floor. It was the Germisol roll-on deodorant commercial.
Germisol, 100%. I have to change my answer to that. I laughed so much.
Citizen Kane 2 was so good. So your star of the night, Dee?
My star of the night, I am going to go Chevy. I was really happy with his performance throughout this.
Matt?
I am going to echo Dee's sentiment, actually. I come to SNL to laugh. I know that there are some bittersweet sketches and there are some broader sketches about characters or perhaps even feeling, especially in the early goings on. I come to laugh. And in this episode, despite Gilda Radner's exemplary acting across several sketches, this was really tough for me because I really think Gilda Radner was amazing this episode. But at the end of the day, I watch SNL to laugh, not to see an actress highlight reel, which she provided, but Chevy was more for me.
Yeah, we have another sweep here. I also went with Chevy. You know, I mean, the big star of the night for me was Toni Basil, but I've actually set specific rules for myself on this. I almost passed, but that's another thing I said I'd never do. But Chase stood out more than the others. I really enjoyed his performance in the Citizen Kane 2, which is actually probably my favorite performance of Chevy thus far.
It was good.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, and just thinking if they taped it live, he had to get that mustache and hat and everything on pretty quickly. So yeah, stuff like that. All right, and our overall grade. I'll jump in with this one. All in all, despite some really good stuff, this was an off week for me, and I felt there was just a bit too much filler and a bit too much relying on longer sketches. Now, Buck Henry is the third in a row of sort of a, all-star host from the early years after Candice Bergen and Elliot Gould, so I'm excited to see him back. For some reason, the actors just seemed less into it, and they seemed tired, and the material wasn't as good. It's kind of felt to me like the Friday afternoon before Christmas break, if that makes sense. For some reason, despite a lot of good in this, it just didn't work for me the way other episodes have as sort of complete episodes. However, the few things that I did enjoy were super silly stuff, really goofy stuff, which they don't always do enough of. So yeah, I enjoyed it all along. I gave this one a 6 out of 10.
I agree with you. Everything you said, I was going to give it a 6 out of 10 as well. I thought about a 6.5, but then I thought about episodes prior to this, and it led me back to a 6.
I think I've already summed up kind of what I said earlier, but to reiterate, I thought this was on the modestly good side of cruise control. And I'm not trying to freak everybody out, but 6.
I'm shaking.
Good, that makes math easy for me to figure out.
I'm quaking.
So our average score is a 6, and the folks over at the Internet Movie Database gave this one a 7.6. It's almost perfectly in line with our
version rate.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Are you saying that that with inflation that we're about on target?
Yeah, we're actually almost perfectly on target. Yeah, I haven't done the math, but looking at our previous ones, we're pretty close.
Right on.
We usually average about 1.5 below what IMDb does. So this is a test case for our conversion rate. All in all, this was a fun episode, and it was a very fun episode for us to record.
Agreed.
I am so delighted you guys we could all get together again on this one. By our standards, it's been a long time since we've done one of these.
I love to be here.
Do the next one again real soon.
Friggin' immediately.
We'll be back next time with episode 11 featuring Peter Cook and Dudley Moore with musical guest star, can't wait to talk to Matt about this one, Neil Sedaka. But until then, I'll be cursing the demon gods who have stifled Toni Basil's fame here in SNL.